I just watched Space Jam: A New Legacy. Whew, the movie's finally out and we can finally stop talking about it. God. Honestly, I have to ask out loud, did anybody really want this movie? Like, maybe back in the 90s when the first Space Jam was relevant, you could maybe drum up interest in a sequel. But here in 2021, I honestly have a hard time imagining anybody was looking forward to this. Prove me wrong, of course, but, you know, I'm just saying. For years, I've been hearing about this development over here and that development over there, and we're not calling it Space Jam 2 anymore, we're calling it Space Jam: A New Legacy, and it's going to be totally awesome, it's going to be totally spectacular. I myself made the joke that Space Jam 2, or Space Jam: A New Legacy, or whatever they wanted to call it, was basically going to be the exact same movie as Space Jam 1, beat for beat. The only differences were it was going to be LeBron James instead of Michael Jordan, and the theme song was going to consist of nothing but Lil Pump going, Space Jam, 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 remember versus Space Jam, Space Jam, remember the scene for the championship, Space Jam, 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 Space. You get the idea. Now that the movie has actually come out, I can officially say with certainty that about 60% of my predictions came true. In my defense, I had no idea Lil Pump was going to lose any and all relevancy outside of his immediate fan base after 2019, and so, yeah, that prediction didn't come true. LeBron James did become the star of Space Jam, and I can't say I'm shocked because LeBron James is basically the big thing in basketball right now. I may not know a whole lot about basketball, but I know that LeBron James is basically the Alex Ovechkin of basketball right now. He's like the badass. He's the one that everybody wants and everybody wishes they were, you know, that guy. And the movie does, for the most part, kind of have a beat-for-beat feel to it, you know, like, you feel like you've seen this movie already because it followed the exact same formula the first Space Jam movie followed. But at the same time, the Space Jam movie from before probably followed a very similar formula in its own right. It's just that it feels even more formulaic because the first Space Jam movie had Looney Tunes too. I also have to say the story of Space Jam: A New Legacy isn't really as compelling as the first one. Like, okay, the first story wasn't Shakespeare, but I kind of felt like there was a lot more urgency in Space Jam 1 because we could actually see that the Looney Tunes would be directly affected if the Monstars ended up conquering Looney Tunes world, and they had to find somebody who was good at basketball because we're the Looney Tunes, man. We don't know how to play basketball. We just hit each other in the head with mallets and go durr on camera a bunch. Space Jam: A New Legacy is more centered on the story of LeBron James, and they give you a very quick biography of who he is, just in case you're like coming to this movie like 20 years in the future and don't know who LeBron James is. Feel free to laugh at the fact that they completely omitted the controversy revolving around China, but you know, it's a kid movie. We don't talk about that here. The Looney Tunes honestly feel secondary. Like, LeBron James could have picked anybody, but he landed on the Toon World first, so he has to pick the Looney Tunes, and he has to go through the Warner Brothers universe to pick up all the other Looney Tunes who were promised more lucrative things and other things, and it's basically just an excuse to have Foghorn Leghorn in Game of Thrones and have Lola Bunny in Wonder Woman 1984 and stuff like that. The one thing I will not criticize this movie for is the Lola Bunny redesign, largely because I don't care. Like, there were plenty of people who saw the redesign and were all angry and got all up in arms. They're like, oh, you're not respecting the character's origins, or you don't understand history, or oh, this character is an atrocity and an affront to everything that makes the character great, etc., etc., and a bunch of other mindless claptrap that can easily be translated into, I can't masturbate to this anymore, therefore I'm pissed. Personally, I don't care. I guess because I'm not really into rabbits, so, you know, but I don't know, I didn't think Lola Bunny was terrible. Like, the material she was given was, you know, it was what it was, but Then the basketball game gets started, and frankly, the only thought I had the entire time I was watching this basketball game was,
wow, this is just a whole bunch of loud garbage.
no, seriously, that's how I felt the entire time I was watching this basketball game. It was just a bunch of mindless colors and sound effects, and the rules make no goddamn sense because now we have to deal with style points. Also add on the fact that the Goon Squad has no screen presence like the Monstars did. Like, yeah, the Monstars are the bad guys and you want to see them lose, but at the same time, the Monstars felt like they had more personality to them because, you know, they actually did have personality. We spent time with the Monstars. We figured out that, like, you know, the blue one was the dude, you know, the red one was the leader. I think the purple one did stuff too, but I haven't seen the first one in a while, so I don't really remember all their personas, but they had more personality because they had more screen time and had more time to flush themselves out. Whereas the Goon Squad, the enemy team in this movie, just show up for the game. There's really no introduction to them. You don't really get any screen time with them. They're just there. And then the game starts, and now you have to figure out who these idiots are and why I should be intimidated by them. I mean, yeah, my world gets deleted if we lose, but aside from that, from a spectator's point, who the hell is this Goon Squad and why should I care? You know, I don't want to be that guy who spends all his time on camera talking about how the first movie was better than the second movie because, you know, that just doesn't make for a good review in my opinion. But if we're being honest, I mean, yeah, this movie was kind of a dud. God bless him, LeBron James did the best with the material he was given, and he was actually pretty good in the movie, I think. But overall, this movie was just kind of meh. Of course, I say all this knowing full well that this movie really wasn't aimed at somebody my age. Like, I can clearly tell that this was supposed to be for the kids, and I guess the kids would probably get more out of this movie than Dum Dum over here probably ever would. Which is all the more reason I'm probably going to be very merciful and give this movie 2 hats out of 4.